Shalom. I'm Rabbi David, and I need to tell you something you might not want to hear. If you have the same amount in your bank account this year as you did last year, or less, you're not the victim of the economy, your boss, or bad luck. You're the victim of 5 specific habits that are keeping you poor, and the worst part, you probably think these things are actually helping you. I know this because I did all of them. When I was 32 years old, I had 3 kids, a wife, and $847 in my bank account. I was working 70 hours a week and had nothing to show for it. I was exhausted, frustrated, and scared. Until an old rabbi showed me the 5 things I needed to stop, not start. Stop. Within 2 years, I made my first million. Within 5 years, I had built 3 businesses, and today, after helping hundreds of families out of financial slavery, I can tell you with certainty, these 5 things keep 90% of people poor. And by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what they are, why they're so dangerous, and how you can stop them today. Let's begin. Before we dive into the 5 things, you need to understand something about how the Torah views poverty. Because in our tradition, poverty isn't just a financial condition, it's a spiritual disease. In Deuteronomy 15:4 it says, "Ephes ki lo yehyeh becha evyon." There shall be no poor among you. This isn't a suggestion, this is a commandment. God is saying, I've given you the tools to create wealth. Poverty should not exist. But here's the reality. It does exist. And not because God failed, but because we ignore 5 fundamental principles that are built into the Torah. Principles that, if you follow them, make poverty almost impossible. And if you ignore them, make wealth almost impossible. I was a rabbinical student. I studied all day. I thought I was holy because I was poor. My wife worked, I studied, and we lived on nothing. And I justified it with spirituality. Money is materialistic, I said. I'm focused on higher things. Until my Rebbe, my teacher, pulled. This is what the Torah calls avodas perech, slave labor. Not because your boss is bad, but because you're trapped in a system where your time is finite, and therefore your income is finite. In the Torah, there's a concept called Piriya the Rivya, be fruitful and multiply. God tells Adam, be fruitful and multiply. This isn't just about children, it's about everything you do. Your work must multiply. When you work 1 hour, that hour should produce value multiple times. How do you do that? By stopping trading time for money and starting to create systems, assets, and leverage. When I was 32, I gave private Torah lessons. I charged $50 per hour. If I gave 20 lessons per week, I made $1,000. Sounds reasonable, right? But here's the problem. If I stopped teaching, the money stopped. I was a slave to my schedule. One day a student said to me, "Rabbi, why don't you record these lessons and sell them online? Then I can watch them whenever I want, and you don't have to give the same lesson every time." That was my aha moment. I recorded 20 lessons, put them on a simple website, and sold access for $200. The first month I sold it to 5 people. That was $1,000. The same as 20 hours of private lessons. But I had only done 20 hours of work, once. The second month, I sold it to 10 people, $2,000, without extra work. The third month, 15 people, $3,000. I wasn't working anymore, but the money kept coming. That's the difference between trading time for money and creating an asset. If you're currently in a time-for-money situation, here's what you need to do. Identify your unique knowledge or skill. What can you do that others can't? For me, it was Torah teaching. For you, it might be marketing, design, coaching, programming, whatever. Package it once. Make a course, write a book, build a template, create a system. Do the work once, but in such a way that it can be sold 100 times. Start small, alongside your job. You don't have to quit working. Start with 5 hours per week. Maaser isn't an expense. It's an investment. When I had $847 in my bank account, I gave away $84.70. My wife thought I was crazy. "We can barely pay rent," she said. And she was right. It wasn't logical. But I had made a promise to myself based on what I learned in the Torah. I would always give first before paying myself. That month, something strange happened. I received an unexpected check for $500 for a lesson I had given months earlier and forgotten about. Coincidence? Maybe. But it kept happening. Every time I gave, even when it hurt, something came back. Not always immediately, not always in the same way, but it came. There's also a psychological side to this story. When you give, especially when you can't afford it, you train your brain in abundance. You're telling yourself, "I have enough to give." That's a powerful affirmation. Your brain starts looking for opportunities to earn more because it believes you're in a state of abundance. People who live in scarcity don't give, and because they don't give, they stay in scarcity. It's a vicious cycle. But people who give, even when they have little, break that cycle. They're saying, "I'm not poor. I have enough to share." And the universe, or God, or whatever you want to call it, responds to that. Commit to 10%. From today, from every dollar you earn, 10 cents goes to charity. Automatically, before you pay yourself. Give locally and visibly. Give to your community, your synagogue, your church, a local food bank. See the impact. That reinforces the habit. Track it. Write down how much you give, not to show off, but to remind yourself of your commitment. At the end of the year, you'll be amazed. The Talmud says, "Aser bishvil shetitasher." Give tithes so that you become wealthy. This isn't magic. This is a spiritual and psychological principle that's thousands of years old. Stop waiting. Afford it. That one word change opens doors. So I asked myself, how can I find $5,000? And my brain started working. I could borrow $1,000 from a friend. I could use $2,000 from my savings. And I could earn $2,000 by giving extra lessons over the next month. Within 2 weeks, I had the money. That coach taught me strategies that took my business from $50,000 per year to $500,000 per year. That $5,000 investment earned me an extra $450,000, but it almost didn't happen because I almost said, "I can't afford it." In Proverbs 23:7, it says, "Ki ka'asher sha'ar benafsho kenhu," for as he thinks in his heart, so is he. You are what you think. And if you think in terms of, "I can't," then you can't. But if you think in terms of, "How can I?" then you find a way. Ban the phrase. From today, every time you think, "I can't afford it," stop yourself. Reframe it. How can I afford it? Create an investment fund. Even if it's only $50 per month, set money aside specifically for investments in yourself. Courses, books, coaching, networking events. This isn't spending, this is investing. Prioritize growth over comfort. The next time you want to spend $200 on something fun, ask yourself, could I invest this money better in something that increases my income? Usually the answer is yes. Rich people don't say, "I can't afford it." They ask, "How can I afford it?" and that's why they're rich. The fourth thing you need to stop, and this is where it gets painful. Stop blaming circumstances. The economy, your boss, your lack of education, your background, your skin color, the system. I've heard it all. And you know what? Some of those things are real. Discrimination exists. Inequality exists. The system isn't perfect. But here's the hard truth. As long as you blame things outside yourself, you give away your power. You're saying, I'm a victim and I can't do anything. And if you can't do anything, why would you try? In the Torah, there's a story about the Israelites in the desert.
Than my father. He had less education than me, but he had one thing I didn't have. He blamed no one. I asked him, how did you do it? He said, I stopped looking at what I didn't have and started using what I did have. That was it. No secret, no luck, just a decision not to be a victim. Circumstances are real, but they're not final. The Talmud tells a story about Rabbi Akiva, who started learning at 40 years old, illiterate and poor. He became one of the greatest scholars in history. His circumstances were terrible. His choices were powerful. You might not have the best circumstances, but you have choices, and those choices, over time, create your reality. Identify your victim story. What's the story you tell yourself about why you can't be successful? Write it down. Look at it. Recognize it as a story, not as truth. Find counterexamples. Look for people who had worse circumstances than you and still became successful. They exist. Learn from them. Take one action you can't do. If you think, I can't start a business without capital, start a business with $100. If you think, I can't learn a new skill at my age, learn one new skill this month. Prove yourself wrong. The Torah says, Lo bashamayim he. It's not in heaven. It's here, with you, in your hands. Stop blaming. Start creating. And the fifth and final thing you need to stop living for today. This might be the hardest because our entire culture tells us, YOLO, you only live once, enjoy life, treat yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that in itself. But if you spend every dollar you earn, if you live paycheck to paycheck because you want to enjoy now, you're stealing from your future self. In the Torah, there's a law called Shemitah, the seventh year. Every seventh year the land must rest. But here's the question. If the land rests, what do people eat? The answer, they eat from what they stored in the...
Only then did I upgrade my life. But not with my work income, with my investment income. Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. If you invest $1,000 per month at 8% return, after 10 years you have $180,000. After 20 years, $580,000. After 30 years, $1.4 million. But only if you start. Only if you don't spend everything today. Pay yourself first. Before you pay your bills, before you buy anything, set aside 20% of your income, automatically, non-negotiable. Live on 80% or less. If you earn $5,000 per month, live as if you earn $4,000. The other $1,000 is for your future self. Set a freedom number. How much money do you need to be financially free? $500,000? $1 million? Calculate it and work toward it every month. The Torah says Joseph, saved grain for 7 years so that when the famine came, Egypt survived. He didn't live for today. He planned for tomorrow. And that's why he became the most powerful man in Egypt. Stop living for today. Start building for tomorrow. So, my friends, let's summarize. The 5 things keeping you poor. Stop trading time for money instead of building systems and assets. Stop waiting to give instead of investing in abundance now. Stop saying, "I can't afford it," instead of asking, "How can I afford it?" Stop blaming circumstances instead of making choices. Stop living for today instead of building for tomorrow. If you do these 5 things, it doesn't matter how much you earn, you'll always be poor. But if you stop these 5 things and start doing the opposite, wealth is inevitable. Not tomorrow, not next week, but over time, with consistency, it's inevitable. Choose one of these 5 things, not all 5, one, and stop it this week. If you're trading time for money, spend 5 hours building an asset